Hello, dear students. The much awaited ICSE Maths board exam for semester 2 is now over. Ideally, it is time for you to focus on the remaining exams, and the teacher within me doesn't want you to worry much about the future. But there is a heavy students' demand to know the answers, and that's the intention behind shooting this video. I will be presenting detailed solutions to the paper. The solutions are correct to the best of my knowledge, and I have tried to be as authentic as possible considering the format of the council. And yes, there is a disclaimer. After all the solutions are known, no one should feel demotivated nor complacent. The only justification that I have given myself for the video is that it will help you know your current status in the exam, and it will also help in deciding corrective action, if any, that's needed to improve your average. I have now shared my laptop screen. So it's basically a preview of the solutions. The only thing is that you should be ready with the question paper. Okay, so let's start. Question 1, the answer is B, which is 1 upon 3. It was a question which involved throwing a dice, and we had to determine the probability of getting a number that's divisible by 3. In the rough column, I have indicated the sample space, which is a set of the total number of outcomes and the outcomes from 1 to 6. And then I've defined a set A, which only includes the numbers that are divisible by 3. So they are 3 and 6. And then we found the probability of this event by dividing the number of elements in set A by the number of elements in set S. And that is how we get 1 upon 3 as an answer. And hence it is option B, 1 upon 3. Then question 2, it talks about a conical tent whose volume is 462 meter cube and the area of its base is 154 meters square. So here in the rough column, in the first line, I've written V is equal to 1/3 of pi r square into h. That's the formula for volume of a cone. I have put pi r square in a bracket because that indicates the area of the base circle. And then I've done the substitution. 154 directly cancels 462 3 times. And therefore the height of this cone will be 3 into 3, that is 9 meters. And this is question 2. So the answer is C, 9 meters. Next, question 3. It's a question that talks about determination of the median class. And we all know that to find median from a grouped distribution, we should find the cumulative frequency. So these values 2, 6, 9, and 14 are the corresponding cumulative frequency values to the frequencies that are given in the question. Now, if you see the last value, 14, this basically indicates the addition of all the frequencies. And to find the median, we need to first divide this by 2. So 14 divided by 2 is 7. And basically the 7th term is our median, or whichever class the 7th term is in, that's the median class. Now, till here we've got 6. That means the 6th term is in the class 10 to 20. So after 6, we've got 9. That means the 7th term, the 8th term, and the 9th term are there in the 3rd class, which is 20 to 30. And our median was the 7th term. Therefore, it will be in this class. So the answer is C, 20 to 30. Next, question 4. This was fairly simple. We were given 2 lines and we had to establish the relationship between their slopes. So this is m1 into m2 is equal to -1. And we all know this as the concept of negative reciprocal. And therefore, the answer is option D. Next was a question from heights and distances, in which we were given a lighthouse whose height is given as 80 meters. And in this diagram, AB, the side AB of this triangle ABC represents the lighthouse. And there is a point C from where the top of the lighthouse is being seen. So BC is basically the distance between that point and the lighthouse. And this is also given in the question 80. Now, if I mark angle BCA as theta, which is basically the angle of elevation. So the only thing that can relate AB and BC is tan here. So tan theta is AB by BC. And since both of them are equal, the answer will be equal to 1. And by using inverse trigonometry, we know that the corresponding theta is 45. And therefore, we go with option B. So question 5 has the answer, which is B. Okay. Next, question 6. Question 6 is again a theoretical question. The modal class of a given distribution always corresponds to. The correct answer is interval with the highest frequency. And we know this because this comes from the concept of mode. So mode is basically the value which has the maximum number of repetitions. So question 6, the answer was A. Next, question 7. It's again a very simple question from reflection. So we were given a point P minus 3,5 and we had to reflect it about the x-axis. So if any point is reflected about the x-axis, its y-coordinate undergoes a reversal. So you can see minus 3,5 becoming minus 3, minus 5. And that's the reason why it is option B. Then question 8. So in question 8, we were given a circle and a cyclic quadrilateral. So all 4 vertices were on the circumference of the circle. And we were given 2 opposite angles, angle BAD and angle BCD. And we know that the opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral are supplementary. So they add up to 180. And this is what I've shown here. 2x plus 5 plus x plus 10 is equal to 180. On solving this equation, we get the value of x as 55. And that is option C. So question 8 is option C, 55 degrees. Then question 9 is a question that is on section formula. It is in the chapter section formula based on the concept of centroid. Centroid is a point where medians of a triangle meet. And we know that the formula for a centroid is, for the x coordinate, it is x1 plus x2 plus x3 by 3. And for the y coordinate of the centroid, it's y1 plus y2 plus y3 by 3. In this question here, they are asking us only about the x coordinate of a point. The centroid, x coordinate and y coordinate have been given. So here I've used the formula for x coordinate of the centroid, which is 4. And that is equal to the addition of all the x coordinates. So the x coordinate of A is 1, that is written here. The x coordinate of B is 4, that is added to 1. And finally, the x coordinate of C is x. So that is added to 4 and 1. And on solving this, we get the value of x as 7. And this is option C. So question 9 has the answer C, 7. Next was a question from mensuration. So we were given a roller. So obviously the shape is cylindrical here. The length of the roller is 100 centimeters. So that is ultimately the height of the cylinder. And the curved surface area is required to be found. And its radius is also given as 14. So we know that CSA of a cylinder is 2 pi RH. And therefore I substituted the value as 2 pi. Pi value is 22 by 7 into the radius, which is 14, into the height or the length, which is 100. And on solving this, 7 and 14, 7 cancels 14 2 times. And that is how you get 8,800, which corresponds to option D. Okay, so this completes the MCQs. Overall, they were not at all difficult. Okay, so an average student can also score 10 on 10 in the first question. Now let's go to section B. Obviously, I've solved all the questions here. So you can decide, or you can just check the questions that you have attempted in the exam and assess yourself accordingly. Okay, the first question was again a very simple one. It was a trigonometry proof in which you had to start by taking the LCM. So here these red lines and arrows are basically indicating the transposition of the term, or the transfer of the term. So 1 minus sine theta moves up here, and 1 plus sine theta goes there, and both the denominator terms get multiplied. And on doing this, sine theta plus and minus sine theta, they get cancelled. So we have a 2 in the numerator, and this is how it is basically equal to 2 sec square theta. The reasons have been given here. Obviously, they are very simple reasons. Here in the third step, it is basically the first trigonometrical identity that we are taught. Sine square theta plus cos square theta is equal to 1. And then in the last step, it is again a very simple trigonometric ratio. 1 upon cos theta is equal to sec theta. So again, a very simple question which guarantees 2 marks. Next was a question from equation of a line in which 3 points were given, and we had to basically use the condition for collinearity to determine the value of A. The concept says that if there is a line segment which has 3 points, using 2 points at one time, you consider it as another line segment, and then you find the slopes of the 2 line segments AB and BC. And because they are collinear, their slopes should be equal. So this is what I've done here. I've started with AB. So 4 minus 3, because 4 is y2 and 3 has been considered as y1. And similarly, in the denominator, we have 7 minus 2a minus 2. Many students they go wrong while assigning the negative sign to the first term, that is 2a plus 2. So I am sure some of you might have written this as minus 2a plus 2. So that is where you could have gone wrong here. But otherwise, if you were careful with the signs, then this is 7 minus 2a minus 2. And then when you cross multiply, you get the value of a, which because ultimately it's a linear equation in one variable, and the value of a is 4. So that's the answer to question 2, the second part. Then question 2, the third part, was a question that's based on statistics where we had to find the mean. The method was not specified anywhere in the entire paper. And if you look at the class interval values, they're pretty small. So the direct method is what is recommended here. So I've made the first two columns, which are actually from the question itself. Then column 3 and column 4 is what you had to do at your end. X, the third column, indicates the class mark, which is the mid value of each and every class. So 5 to 15, the mid value is 10. It can be found by adding 5 to 15 and dividing that by 2. And then we had the frequency, which is 2 multiplied by the corresponding class mark, and that becomes the last column fx. All the values of fx were added, and 780 was the answer. Another place where students can go wrong is in the addition. So if you've done this carefully, you will have got 780. And then the formula says addition of all the products of frequency and x divided by addition of all the frequencies. So that's summation fx by summation f, and this was equal to 32.5. That's question 2, the third part. Question 2, the fourth part, obviously there is another way of doing it. I've avoided the concept of reflex angle because I prefer teaching it in this manner, because the concept of reflex angle confuses some students. So I've tried to make this question as simple as possible. So the one that is shown, the part that's shown in red is basically a part of the solution, which is not shown by the examiner. Everything else that's in black in the diagram is directly copied or taken from the question. Now we had to find the first angle, that is QOR. Now to do this, I've basically worked with this quadrilateral QPRO, and we know that this angle here at the top PQO and this angle here at the bottom PRO is equal to 90 degrees, that is by the radius tangent property. And then addition of all the four angles of a quadrilateral, they add up to 360 degrees. And these two angles PQO and ORP were replaced by 90 because of that radius tangent property. 70 is already given. And then we can solve this for angle QOR, and that is equal to 110 degrees. Having found QOR, the next part was where we had to find QSR, that is this angle. Now to find QSR, as I told you earlier, we can use reflex of angle QOR, but I've avoided that by using QR as a chord and subtending an angle on the circumference. So this is a construction that had to be done at your end, and that gave us the angle QTR. And now QTR and QOR, they are related by the theorem that we learn at the start of the topic, that comes from the arc properties of a circle. So angle subtended by an arc or a chord at the center is twice the angle at the circumference. So angle QOR is at the center, that's 110 degrees. So if you divide it by 2, you get angle QTR, that's 55. And once you get QTR, you can once again use opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral property for QTRS. And if QTR is 55, then QSR will be 180 minus 55. And that's how we get 125 as an answer. So angle QOR is 110 and angle QSR is 125. And for this, you would be awarded 3 marks. Of course, the reasonings had to be given. Next, question 3, the first one, a very simple question on probability, where you had to find the chances of picking a red ball. So the formula is the total number of red balls divided by the total number of balls that are there in this question. There are 10 in all, and out of which only 2 are white, and therefore the probability of picking or selecting a red ball would be 1/5. Next was a question which involved melting and recasting. A cone had to be melted into multiple cylinders. So the formula is volume of the cone is equal to n into the volume of a cylinder, where n is the number of cylinders formed. I've written down the formulae for both: 1/3 of pi r square h on the left hand side and pi r square h on the right hand side. Correct substitution had to be done. I prefer working with fractions than with decimals. So here you can see the radius has not been taken as 0.5. Instead, I've taken 1/3. Similarly, the height of the cylinders formed, it was given in the question as 1.5 and I have taken it as 3/2. It's one and the same thing. I started by cancelling this 3 on the left hand side with this 9. There was a 3 left and that 3 cancelled this 3 on the right hand side. And then I just collected all the terms on one side. And that's how I got the number of cylinders formed as 200. So it's 5 into 5 into 2 into 2 into 2. Next, question 3, the third part, again, a simple heights and distances question. The only thing that could have troubled a few students was this non-standard value, 40 degrees. Otherwise, there's nothing challenging in this question. So you can work with the two triangles PDC and ABP separately. PDC, we have tan 60, that's opposite, which is CD 100 divided by PD. And on solving this, we get the value as 57.73. You can see the solution here. And then we go to the other triangle ABP. This is where the challenge lied. You had to work with a non-standard angle tan 40 for which you had to use the logbook. And from the logbook, the value is 0.8391. And that is equal to opposite, which is 100 divided by BP. And then there was a tough division here, and which could have consumed some time. And the correct answer for that was 119.17. Therefore, PD, the segment on the right-hand side is 57.73 and BP on the left-hand side was 119.17. Nobody asked us to add the two of them. Therefore, the answer has been presented separately. The next question is question 3, the fourth part. In this, we had a histogram to be plotted, and the whole idea of doing that is to determine the mode. Obviously, I've shown colored blocks here, which you did not have to show in the exam. It was just shown so that there is a good contrast between this and the graph paper in the background. So here, the only thing that you had to be careful about was the height of these blocks. The scale was already given. So every block on the x-axis, it corresponded to 10 marks, and every block on the y-axis was for 10 students. And then we start the plotting. The first block, the first building, it rises to a height of 5. That 5 would be the fifth line from 0. And that is what you can see here. It is basically the block having the least elevation. Next, it's 10 to 20, which is 15. So that's exactly at the midpoint of 10 and 20. After that, we have 20 to 30, which was very easy. Then 30 to 48. So that was the second line below 30. Then 40 to 50, that was again easy. And then finally 50 to 60, that was the second line above 10. After this, to find the mode, again, this was relatively easier. We had to join these two extremes and these two extremes. And because the two adjacent buildings are of the same height, the mode naturally would be at the center of 30 and 40. And therefore, the answer for mode for question 3, the fourth part, and this was for 3 marks, is 35. Next, question 4, again a simple one based on section formula in which they had given the coordinates of the endpoints, and we were given the ratio as well, and we had to use the section formula for internal division, that's mx2 plus nx1 upon m plus n for the x coordinate, and my2 plus ny1 upon m plus n for the y coordinate. And it's a very simple substitution. The solution can be seen here, and the final answer was -2,6. Yes, in this case, there's one more thing. X1, Y1, obviously, it is not fixed. Some of you might have taken X1, Y1 on the right-hand side and X2, Y2 on the left-hand side. But the difference in that case would be the value of M for you guys would be 3 and the value of N would be 1. So you can do it either way. Here, I've just tried to show one approach. Okay, next is question 4, the second part. This was again a very simple question. On probability, they could have increased the difficulty level by giving a word in which certain alphabets were repeated, and those alphabets had to be dropped while making the set. But in this case, the word secondary, there is no alphabet that's repeated. So every alphabet finds a unique place in the set A. And then there's a set V that I've introduced here. It's the set of vowels, and there are only 3 of them. But then we've got to determine the probability that it's not a vowel. That means it's a consonant. So if there are 3 vowels out of 9, there'll be 6 consonants. And therefore, the probability would be 6 upon total number of letters, which is 9. And that's how we got 2/3 as an answer for question 4th, the second part. The next question is question 4th, the third part, which was another graph. So I will first show you the graph. Okay, so this is what it looked like, the final result. We were given 5 points, A, B, C, D, and E, and out of which only 3 points had to be reflected about the y-axis. So B to get B dash, C to get C dash, and D to get D dash. I have shown the coordinates of these points here. So it's only the x coordinate that has undergone a change. The y coordinate remains unchanged. And then finally, the name. It's a 7-sided closed figure. So the answer expected was either a septagon, or it is also called as a heptagon. But if you've written something else, like I've heard of people having written a boat. Now, boat is not a technical name here. So there is no clarity as of now. Once we get the answer key from the council as teachers, then we will be able to pass on the message to you. But as of now, we can only consider a septagon or a heptagon as an answer for this. Next, question 4th, the 4th part. It was again a question from mensuration, where we have been given a cylinder, which I have denoted by these two variables, capital H and capital R, for the height and the radius respectively. And from this cylinder, we are hollowing out two congruent cones, identical cones. And you can see this result. We had to find the volume of the remaining solid, which is basically the volume of the cylinder. And from that, both the cones had to be subtracted, not one. And therefore, you can see this 2 here. Formulae, we are all well versed with. And you can see the correct substitution. Pi, I've taken it common. You can put pi in both the terms and then solve them separately. That is also fine. The end answer would be 1760 and nothing else. So 1760 is the volume of the solid that is left. This substitution has been shown here. So you can refer to it later by taking a screenshot of the same. Next, question 5, the first part. Again, a very simple question based on intersecting chords and intersecting each other externally. So everybody must be aware of this result. So EB into EA is equal to ED into EC. And then we had to assume this unknown chord CD as X. And therefore, this entire secant ED would be X plus 2. And then on substituting the values correctly, we will get the value of X as 10. Then question 5, the second part, was again an interesting question, which involved 2 lines and they are perpendicular to each other. The first line, I've called it as CD. Its endpoints are given, so you can very easily find its slope by using the formula y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. You had to be only careful with the signs here. The slope was found to be 1. Then AB being perpendicular, we had to use the concept of negative reciprocal, and that basically gave us the slope of AB as -1. And then we can use slope point form to determine the answer to the equation of line AB. So I've presented the answer in both the forms. The first form is y is equal to mx plus c, and the second one is the general form or the general equation of a line. So y is equal to minus x plus 4 and x plus y minus 4 is equal to 0. These were the answers. Question 5th, the third part, again was not at all difficult, a very simple trigonometry proof where you had to just use the algebraic identities a plus b the whole square and a minus b the whole square. And on doing that, as you can see here, 2 terms, 2 sine theta and minus 2 sine theta would get cancelled. And then what would be left with is 1 plus 1, that's 2, and sine square theta plus sine square theta is 2 sine square theta. On taking 2 common, we would get 1 plus sine square theta in the bracket, and the denominator is 2 cos square theta. And both the 2's get cancelled, and that is how we have 1 plus sine square theta upon cos square theta. You assign cos square theta individually to both the terms, and that basically gives us the right hand side. Next, question 4th. So here again, it was a question based on mean, where we can use the direct method. The only difference in this question and the earlier one was that here a frequency was unknown, and basically the mean was given. So the steps are pretty straightforward. The only thing that you had to be careful with this question was the multiplication and this final addition, which is 2020 plus 30f. So 30f, that has come from the second class interval, 30 into f. Addition of all frequencies also would be in terms of the unknown variable f, and that was 34 plus f. And then you had to substitute it in the formula summation fx upon summation f. And on cross multiplication, you would get a simple linear equation in one variable, and that ultimately gave us 320 is equal to 20f. So f is 320 by 20, the two zeros get cancelled, and the unknown frequency was 16. A 3-mark question. Okay, fine. The one question that I found in the paper in trigonometry, which could be said that it is slightly complicated than the others, was this question. The previous two are pretty straightforward. This also became a straightforward question if tan square would be replaced by sec square theta minus 1, which is basically making use of the third identity that we are taught, 1 plus tan square theta is equal to sec square theta. Having done this, then suddenly the question became very easy, because when you see this term, the second one, the numerator of it, you realize that you can make use of a square minus b square. So that became sec theta minus 1 into sec theta plus 1, again divided by 1 plus sec theta. Both these terms are identical, so they get cancelled. Now the LCM being 1, you can just add up 1 plus sec theta minus 1. Obviously, we see 1 getting cancelled, and that is how we get the right-hand side, which is sec theta. Next, question 6. The second part was from circles, where the only thing that I marked later was this angle, which is shown in red. That's 90 degree because AB is given as the diameter. So ACB is 90 according to the property which says angle in a semicircle is 90. Now, the first thing that they've asked here is angle ADC. So this is angle ADC here. It is subtended by chord AC at the circumference, and the same chord is making ABC, that's 62. So using angles in the same segment property, we get the first answer as 62. As I said earlier, angle ACB is 90, so we can make use of the angle sum property for the three angles of triangle ABC. One is 90 that we found, 62 was given, and therefore you can easily find BAC or CAB as 28 degrees. A simple question. Next, question 6, the third part. This had some complexity, but obviously for questions, for students who had solved questions from the textbooks, they must have come across this variety in at least 2 to 3 places. So for them, it may not have been a new question, but for the others, definitely it must have been a new question. So here, the thing is, we are given 4 lines. 2 lines, I have called them as A and B, are the ones that are intersecting at point P. So the question begins with determining this point of intersection, that is by solving them simultaneously. So I've added the 2 equations. So basically y has got eliminated and the value of x is 4. And when you substitute the value of x as 4 in any one of these 2 equations, you get the value of y as 0. So you first had to find the coordinates of this point P. So they were 4, 0. Then there was a line which I've indicated in blue, whose equation was given as 2x plus y minus 7. The line whose equation we are required to find is the one in red. As you can see, the red and the blue lines are parallel to each other, so they will share the same slope. So in the next part of the question, we had to find the slope of this line, 2x plus y minus 7, and that was minus 2 by comparing it with y is equal to mx plus c. Now, if the slope of the blue line is minus 2, then the slope of the red would also be minus 2. Now, since the line which is shown in red, whose equation is to be found, passes through point P, point P basically lies on the line. And the slope of the red line, which we already found, was minus 2. And then we had to just use the slope point form, y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. And the values of m, x1 and y1 are as given on the slide. And that's how the answer was either y is equal to minus 2x plus 8, or in the general form, 2x plus y minus 8 is equal to 0. Finally, the last question, question 6, the fourth part, a question based on ogive. We had to start by first finding and making this column corresponding to cumulative frequency and then the points. Every point has come from the upper class limit of that class interval and the cumulative frequency, and you will be able to see all points plotted on the ogive. Of course, I don't need to remind you that you had to write the scale, label the x and y axis, join all the points, and as we all know, an ogive is a curve that starts from the x-axis it basically had to be started from this point 10, 0. And having completed the plot, then the cumulative frequency adds up to 40, 40 divided by 2. From the 20th observation, we do this projection onto the ogive, which is projected down, and this finally hits on the x-axis at the point 38. Therefore, the median was 38. That's it. This completes the solutions to the test paper. Thank you. All the best.